Kumbaya, my lord. This isn't just kumbaya talk. Purpose drives impact. Looking to empower up your day? Tune in to Evolve Together with Empower People on ESPN Richmond, powered by MikeKingBiz. Join me, host and Empower People founder Tiffany Joy Greene, MBA, as I bring dynamic leaders, change makers, and entrepreneurs to share their journeys, challenges, and successes while driving their purpose to drive positive impact and empower people. Empower People is an organization that provides education, connection, and support to mission and purpose-driven leaders to drive positive impact and empower people. Catch us every Tuesday at 5 a.m. on ESPN Richmond and join Empower People today. What are you waiting for? We even have a free membership. That's right, free. Visit www.empowerpeople.org. That is MPWRPeople.org. You can also visit us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Evolve Together. Well, welcome to Evolve Together with Empower People. My gosh, it's 2025. I blinked and 2024 was over. Actually, I feel like that happened after COVID in 2020. But anyway, our time just started going on uber super duper fast speed, fast forward. But welcome to Empower Hour, Evolve Together with Empower People. We're doing things a little bit differently, people. We're doing the Evolve Together with Empower People show and the Empower Hour. We're morphed them into one program. So the programs are a little bit longer, but we morphed them together. I'm the host. Who am I? I'm not having an existential crisis, so therefore I can tell you I am Tiffany Joy Greene, and I am the founder of Empower People. Some people, the certain person is not on with us today on the mic with Mike, who dubbed me the Princess of Purpose. And because he did so, I invested in a tiara. So anyway, we also have Chris Mayfield, who is an Empower People partner with us today. And we're going to be talking about how education, connection, and support can help you unlock your business growth today. We also have a guest with us today. Feel free, Cristina, Martinez, Andino, to ask us any questions you may have. And let's get the party started. Wait, Mike, where's the music? Mike's looking at me like there's no.
Oh, I don't know. What music?
We're like on Zoom. If we were in the studio, I would be playing the music.
Yeah.
So let's get started. So let's, I'm going to ask Chris, I'm going to put Chris on the hot seat because Chris likes that. Chris likes that. Well, he married an attorney, for gosh sake, so you know he likes it.
It's my favorite thing. Yeah.
So, Chris, why do you think education is important to help not just business leaders, but like organizations and as a whole grow and help build that culture of a business? Why do you think education is so important to do that?
Oh, geez. So where even to start with that, right? You know, when I think about business and business development, business growth, you really can't separate education with growth in business or business development. You know, when we talk about change management, and business development, education offers some level of resiliency, and resiliency is a big factor in change and growth. So the education gives us that opportunity to develop the skills that we're going to need to help our organizations manage change and growth. And so it's kind of fundamental. If we don't understand or don't have access to understand the basic fundamentals of our business, of our people, of the community around us, then we literally are cutting off our ability to change and grow and connect. So it's really fundamental. Without education as a catalyst, none of those things are going to be possible. So that's why we always encourage organizations, for-profit, nonprofit, et cetera, to focus on training and education and building various levels of community inside their business and their organizations.
Well, I'm gonna put you on the spot again because I believe you're a vet, and so I think in that realm of your career, the military. That the education played such an integral role, right? I mean, can you speak to that too? I mean, if the military is doing it, must mean something.
Well, there's a lot of pieces to that, but you're absolutely right. When you, and Mike can talk about this a little bit too, like, the day you step off the bus at whether you're going to boot camp or officer candidate school or whatever uh, uh, entry level training you go to, the very first thing you do is you start learning, right? Hey, here's how we stand. Here's how our feet look. Here's what we wear. Here's why we wear it that way. Here's how we talk to each other. Here's how we treat each other. Here's what is expected of you. Here's the things you can't do, right? So the military instantly, from the minute you join, starts education. Some of it's pleasant, some of it's not. Uh, you know, and that's part and parcel with the gig. But it's and then it's continuous, right? So as you grow through the ranks, you get a different type of education. Hey, here's how we do operations. Here's how we administer programs for people. Here's how we do all these different things. And as you go up, your education changes. And then, when you're at that junior level, it's really about here's how you as a person are going to operate. And then as you grow, it's here's how you are going to operate, but here's also how you're going to connect and work with other people in other organizations inside the military. So they spend a lot of time training and education on a lot of time on training and education at every levels of the military, and that's all the way from your E1 to your O10s, right? Your generals in DC making decisions and connecting service at the service level. So it's a huge part of the military experience, and a lot of the techniques that are in private industry today are born out of the military experience, because they do invest heavily in best training methodologies, best experience creation, so to speak. So you can get a glimpse of that. Just watch some of your recruiting videos, right, from the services, and they really invest in how does the next generation going to perceive their potential life in the military, and what is going to be attractive to them and what isn't. And a lot of those methodologies then are married with traditional training activities, and something different comes out. So you can't just expect what worked in the 60s is going to work today, right? Because it's just not. We're different. So the military really tries to stay ahead of that through research and testing. So I hope that answered your question. That was a long answer.
It does, but I also feel like the military gets that education sets the culture right straight out the gate. Like you were talking about, I've never been in the military, so I don't want to talk like I'm a veteran, but as soon as somebody steps off the bus, as you say, right, they take that opportunity from the second you're off the bus, you're getting indoctrinated into that culture immediately. They keep the ball in their hands in their court, that you don't have wiggle room to start developing your own culture. Would you say that's part of the
No, it is definitely not the case where fitting into the culture is an option.
Right.
Either they have what's called an FTA, failure to adapt, and if you become an FTA, you are politely shown the back door, stage left. And the decision is actually made within the first few weeks of you getting to your first training facility. The decision is made whether you're going to be able to successfully adapt to military life or not. Vast majority of people, not an issue. They know what they're signing up for, but some people just can't do it, and they are encouraged to go find other careers.
I'm going to pivot a little bit, and now because we at Empower People always talk about education, connection, and support. So how do you feel connection plays an integral role in an organization's growth and its ability to thrive? And when I talk about connection, let's be clear, we're talking about network, we're talking about fostering collaboration and learning from peers. So
again, this is a huge topic. So when I think about connection, it's important to add a lot of context, right? So my connection to you, Tiffany, that one-on-one connection, and we're both responsible for that, right? We both own part of that. So then we also have a connection to maybe a team that we work with, right? And everybody owns their piece. So not only am I responsible for my connection to Tiffany, but also Mike, also to the Cristina, right? And then I have the variable of your connection to Cristina, your connection to Mike, right? So all those things we have to consider, and we have to create an environment in where we're likely to have successful connections. Not always, right? You always have those people that are FTA, failure to adapt, but we always want to try and build that culture where people are likely to have successful connections. So we think about those small team connections, then larger organization connections, and that environment. And as leaders, how do you drive that culture so that you allow people to make connections, right? Without necessarily being heavy-handed in forcing connections, although there is time for that, times that has to happen. But for the most part, we would like to see those come up organically. And what that means is we have to create opportunities for people to connect, because people aren't just going to, there are people that will get up and walk around and talk to everybody in the building, right? And they're going to connect, they're going to know their kids' names, they're going to know their pets' names, and everybody's going to love them, and they're sunshine and rainbows. But then there's other people that will never leave their desk. So as a leader, our responsibility is to create those opportunities for people to get out of their desk and connect with the people around them. So that's kind of an inside organization connection theory or model, right? But then we have these other external connections that we have to make, which is where our true innovation and growth comes from. If we sit around in our own little bubble and we do what we do, and we do it well, right? We're like the best at this thing that we do, but we're not connected to other organizations or other people, that external knowledge network, we never grow. So leaders also are responsible for creating an environment where those connections are sought out, actively sought out, and then having a process on, once we have connected and we're cultivating relationships, how do we take that and internally use that for growth and development? Which then ties us right back to our first kind of conversation about education, because we take this new knowledge, these new relationships, we internalize it, and then we have to do something with it. And what we do with it is we train people and we develop people based on that new model, or that new theory, or that new practice, or that new best practice, so to speak. So that connection then leads back to that education, which then continues that internal connection discussions that are so important. So those are all very connected, and it's always fluid and it's always changing. And that's why that education and resilience remains one of the primary focuses of leadership inside organizations.
Well, I agree with you, Chris, and I'm now going to put Mike on the hot seat since his nickname is the partnership guru. I think Mike is in the connections business, so I didn't know if Mike had something he'd like to add or say about the importance of connections. And you're on mute too, Mike, just so you know. You're still on mute.
Oh, there I am. Okay. So when we tied it to the connections and education go together, you and Chris met at different times, and I met you, and I met Chris. Me and Chris, we go back to, I don't know, 2019, something like that. He spoke differently about leadership than I'd ever heard. For anybody who knows me, I'm just the kumbaya, we all can get along. That's me. We can try and work for the greater good. Sometimes a lot of people don't get it. Chris Mayfield got it. Tiffany Greene got it. I'm just going along doing my business. I see you two together. It makes sense. That's from the connection standpoint. From the education standpoint, I'd never seen anybody who talked about leadership the way Chris did. And you take that and you learn from it. I learned from that. I'm like, okay, it's military, but it sort of has this feel-good component of doing good. Years later, I meet Tiffany Greene, and what do you tell me? I say nonprofits scare people because they're always begging for money. And you said to me, Mike King, you hit me up for money, you're begging for money. What's the difference? The difference is what you do with the money. So when you take the education piece, what I learned from Chris, what I learned from you, and then, we take it and you start making connections, you start looking at what's the greater good for the connection. Like Chris said, there are people who can work a room and they run around and they know that's not me. When I have to do that thing, I am thoroughly worn out. People think because I do it, they don't see the parts that Tiffany's seen of Mike or the parts of Chris, the kind of awkward kind of, this is a train wreck when you look at it that way. So what we do is we take the education piece, we take the connection, we put them together, and we start putting our friends and people in position that they can win. If you know that this person isn't that great with the connection part, you put them in a spot, you introduce people to them so that they're able to win instead of them having to go introduce themselves to you. That's what Empower People does. It empowers people with the idea and the ability to be in a room where decisions are made, or your name is there, or your brand is there, and your friends, your people are working for the greater good. That's my part. When you look at the connection, you're always on looking for opportunities for your partners. When you go to a room, I'm like, hey, do you know Tiffany Greene? This is what she does. Or I need to connect you with her because this is what she does. This is what Chris Mayfield does, and how they would be of a benefit to you and your team.
I like that too. And then when I hear you talk, Mike, about that way, it's like, I think, we can talk, connections. Sometimes people think, well, connections means network, which means referral. And sometimes people think referral equals just money, right? But nobody said that here. Nobody's saying referral to sale. We're saying the connection is about empowering people to do good. And that's what Empower People is always talking about, right? Like if we focus on purpose, profit will come. Not if we focus on profit, then we'll talk about what good we can do, right? No, we focus on good first and profit will come. And I like that. I like that a lot, Mike. So Chris wants to say something.
Yes, it's always good to get a testimonial, right, for these ideas, right? And it's better when it's a firsthand testimonial. So I'll give you a quick testimonial about the power that you and Mike are just talking about. So as Mike mentioned, we met each other, I don't know, half a decade ago or more. And we've been kind of working together. And my very first, Mike might remember, my very first hostage video I did with Mike on the radio. I was just sitting there kind of in my button-down shirt, and I was really nervous, but I had this great idea, and Mike was trying to drag stuff out of me with a pair of pliers. But I had what I thought was a great idea, that we would use business connections with people that cared about the community and cared about the things that we care about. And along the way, we would take care of people, right? So that first year, 2019, I lost a lot of money, right? I donated a lot, but I also lost a lot of money, right? Just straight out, just lost it. Upside down all the way. Last year, through the Hope Dealer network of businesses and business associates, we donated, and this is the outing right here. We donated $347,000 to Richmond-based community programs. So it is 5 or 6 short years. We've taken one connection and turned it into life-changing opportunities for people through, food assistance programs and preschool education and scholarships for continuing education. So it is a real thing, and connections without profit being the aim is a real thing. So if that is your desire, to grow your business, to be successful, to do things in your community. I'm telling you, it's possible. I've done it. It's all about the connections, and it's all about showing up. Showing up is 90% of the fight, right? So, Mike is good at showing up. Mike's great at showing up, even though he might show up and stand in the corner. Mike always shows up, right? But and he's there, and he's putting in the work, and he deserves that recognition. So, but it's possible, and you can do it. I'm not an overly charismatic guy, right? Given my choice, I would go sit in the corner too. But if you just go and meet people where they are, share that lived experience and that lived desire to grow your community and your business, it'll happen. And just let it happen naturally and create opportunities for it to happen.
I like that. I like the testimonial, Chris. So now we're gonna. Oh, sorry. Yep, Mike.
Really quickly. So, it's a shame when you see two grown men, an Army guy and Marine, sitting in the corner holding hands. They're not real charismatic when it comes to that. But Tiffany, when you think about it, how many conversations have we had where we talk about the goodwill in an organization has a direct effect on the bottom line?
All the
We
time.
talk about that all the time. And a lot of times people don't get it. When people get along and the culture is good, they operate better. And that's that's what you're always talking about. And sometimes people look at you kind of like with the weirdo look. But when they've been on a team or an organization that has it, they get it.
They get it, and that's the reality. I mean, if you look at most successful organizations, it's all rooted in purpose. I've said this, I don't know, probably somebody should count it, maybe do some sort of fundraiser. How many times I've said, I don't know the person who wakes up every day and says, man, I can't wait to make this company more money, or this CEO or this owner more money. I don't know if anybody's motivated by that. If you exist, I'm not judging you. I just haven't met you yet. So most people, they're driven by purpose. And two things: most people, when they go to work, they want to know that work is something meaningful and what that purpose is about. And generally, it's not about, again, getting excited about making another human being more money. Secondly, they may have a different purpose than the organization, and lo and behold, that's okay too, because maybe that job is a means to be able to fund their purpose, whatever that purpose is. So there's got to be a purpose in feeling like I'm doing something bigger than just a paycheck or earning this company more money. And also, this job is helping me achieve my purpose. And at the end of the day, it is about feeling good. And realistic notion is there's good days and bad days in life and business and everywhere, right? So what gets you through? What gets you through is that knowing that in the end, we're doing good work. I'm doing something good. And in Empower People right now, in one of our groups, we're talking about legacy, right? And purpose and legacy go hand in hand. And unfortunately, people, when they think about legacy, they think about, what do they think about? They think about only when they have passed on. What are people going to think about them, me, for example, when I pass on? Legacy isn't about just when you're gone. Legacy is every living day you have on this earth, and every day. So today, what is the legacy I'm leaving today by my actions today? The very first action decision I make today is setting the tone of my legacy. And if every decision I make is not rooted in purpose, my purpose, guess what? My purpose is just words. My purpose is not my legacy. And who here knows of human beings who, and we could argue, and we actually talked about this in Empower People, like not everybody has a really awesome altruistic legacy. We know that, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But who here knows somebody who doesn't have any aspiration of any legacy of any kind? I'm not going to say it. There could be an exception to the rule, but I think the vast majority of people, it's on their mind, right? We want to leave a mark. And so if you're working, every leader should be aware of this, because nobody's getting up every day and saying, I'm trying to make that guy a really great legacy. No, we're selfish. We want to leave our own individual mark. So if we know that, think about what an organization can do collectively. If everybody's legacy is being evaluated, and helped fostered, that drives a really positive, purposeful culture, which also builds a really resilient culture, which, by the way, I hope you realize I have tiered up the 3-pillar, which is support. Because if we all are aware of each other's purpose and we support each other's purpose, that fosters a true team. But sorry, I don't know, Mike, if you really want me to go off like that, but you kind of teed me up there and I kind of swung the bat.
You know, I think it's ridiculously unfair that we have to put Cristina on the spot yet.
Oh, what did you say? I didn't hear you very well, Chris. Sorry.
I said, I think it's unfair that we haven't put Cristina on the spot yet to see where all this lands with her.
Well, let's do it. Let's put her on the spot. We've talked about 3 pillars. All 3 have been mentioned: education, connection, and support. She's like, thank you.
Sure. Is there like, for a question, or you want me to like build? I don't want to interrupt the flow.
Or
say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Sure. Education, connection, and support. So we think of that in terms of a business owner and a leader. So education and isolation can be helpful to support individual career fulfillment goals. Great. Education with connection, where I can learn with a community, is widely successful in enterprise and corporate organizations, where they build communities of new managers and groups. That group-based learning as an adult is really helpful. You build connections with your peers and you learn together. And so oftentimes the facilitator or instructional designer provides basic content, but a lot of the learning is happening peer-to-peer and through building relationships through different experiences, and it's highly impactful and valuable. And then as you think about support, periodic, one training is nice, it's great, but if it's not applied and it's not supported through your organization's culture, it might not do much. So here, go get this certification, but then you come back and you try to apply all the great things that you learn within your organization and your business, but culturally it's not supported. It's not going to go anywhere within your business as well. So I think it's like, how do you bring all these pieces? There's one, support on its own is great. So is learning and so is community. But when you bring things through that intersection, it's highly impactful in being able to not only support an individual's career fulfillment, build community within your business, spread that learning at scale, and then through investing strategically in that support, you're able to see a higher rate of return more quickly. Learning is in service of something. It's in service of the individual's growth or in service of a business goal. So how do we think about really getting the return back on the investment that you make in that learning and that support as well? So those are things that come to mind, bringing it together.
I agree with you a lot. I mean, if you think, when I think back through my career and I think about different organizations I've worked with, there may be like different opportunities for training or education, and you come back, but then it's like, this was great, but the organization goes right back to where you left it before the training and nothing really happens. So everything is, and I know you, Cristina, so I feel comfortable saying like everything is rooted in the culture, which is rooted in, which I always say is rooted in purpose. So if there's not that connection, it's just going to flop, right? And so there are times to have that, like you were saying, like that individual educational experience, but I'm 100% agreement with you. To make it an education become a habit and become part of the culture, you need all 3 elements for that. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say that's why hate doing this, but I feel like now I'm on the infomercial, but that's why I created the learning growth development programs, because learning growth development programs actually incorporate all 3. So then that way, when somebody gets through the learning and growth development program, it's not like, oh, that felt great, and now what? They're doing it. It's part of it. It's part of now the culture. But that's why I think it's so important.
And Chris can probably speak to the role as a leader in particular in this, and not only modeling learning sharing their learning, creating and intentionally creating space for their team to learn. Oftentimes there's like learning days, like this is the day we're going to learn as a team. So there's a role as a leader to also embody how they learn and how they support their team to learn, and how they create community and connection within their team in that learning space. It's really difficult for an individual employee on a team to learn if they don't have the support of their leader and their team to not only learn, but also to apply it. So creating a safe space for your team to bring new ideas, to bring their learning as a leader is really important. And Chris can certainly speak to more, but I think that's also helpful for a business owner or leader to think about is what is my role to help my employees to learn and grow.
Oh, Christina, you asked Chris a question. You flipped it right back. Tennis. Chris, you're
I knew I was, when you ask people questions, they tend to ask, especially when they're extremely bright, they tend to ask you a question in return. So I appreciate that. So when I think about the role of a leader in organizational development and learning, there are certainly, as Christina pointed out, the need for individual learning. Group learning is more, in my opinion, more important than the individual learning, because it not only does it take a basic concept or basic idea, which can go completely awry if you try and learn it in a vacuum, right, or without perspectives, right, of other people. It's like, we're going to implement a new system, and you as the administrator, you have one view, but if you don't have the view of people three desks down who are going to interact with that system much differently, then it's a disaster. But I think from a leadership perspective, it's all about shaping the culture in a couple different ways. One, it's okay to be wrong, right? It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not get it exactly right. We don't want to tank the business, but it's okay to not get it perfectly right the first time, right? Because that's part of development and growth. And what often when I think about things, I think, what don't I want, right? What kind of ice cream do I want? Well, I know I don't want this. And then that starts to narrow down my choices. Same way in creating an environment where people are encouraged to learn. So in an environment where people are encouraged to learn, what don't you see, right? And then we can start working through those things. And then ultimately, if we remove enough of those things that we don't want, we have an environment that's left that are full of the things we do want. So I think people get paralyzed. Well, geez, how do I build that environment, right? What are the characteristics of that? Well, geez, just take not the easy way, but take the approach is just start removing the things that aren't helpful for that aren't going to create that environment, that aren't going to encourage people to connect and expand and learn new skills along the way. So you can make that list fairly quick, right? So punishing people for making mistakes, or punishing people for having new perspectives, or not encouraging growth and education. And then, from a leadership perspective, we keep circling back to the education and being able to provide education. And from an organization right now, put on your manager hat, you have to be able to developing people is not cheap, right? It takes time, it takes other resources, and so that's a big piece of the management of and leadership, is finding those resources, finding those opportunities, connect, and then allowing people to operate nearly risk-free, not risk-free, right? We don't want to ruin the business, but nearly risk-free to make mistakes and play with tools and concept and connect with each other and learn. If we strangle our employees, and I don't mean that literally, but if we strangle their willingness to connect because they are afraid that if they do, they will be diminished somehow, then that is where we start to fail, and we fail quickly.
One of the things you're talking about too, Chris, was in terms of investment and that, you know, to help develop your staff, it costs time, it costs resources. But I think there's a lot of studies been done in it. I'll use the analogy. If anybody here has owned a car or a home, if we don't continuously maintain it or update it, the cost of fixing problems later on are far more costly than doing that continual maintenance and continuing improvement. So the same as with people. So while it might seem, well, gee, I don't want to spend this on this continuing education or this peer group support and whatnot, it's actually cheaper than if you don't.
Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah. Right. And the reason, well, I think the big reason for that is developing that culture where it's expected that you're going to grow in a good way. If Mike never got out of his chair and never left the corner, his business would fail, and that's probably true across all kinds of manufacturing, distribution, research, development, customer service. The list goes on. If we're not encouraged to get outside our own four walls, if we're not encouraged to go reach out, whether it's just to the person sitting next to us or maybe in the business down the road, if we're not encouraged, in fact, if we're punished when we do that, then we won't have a successful culture, and then ultimately we won't have a successful business because our business will fail to innovate. And without innovation, embracing new technology, so we can go and buy new technology, right? Everybody's all up in arms about AI and all that. We can go and find new technology, but if we don't have a culture where we can take that new technology or that new best practice and use it and make mistakes with it and do it wrong a couple times without fear of being diminished somehow or fired or demoted, then you're not going to innovate. And if you don't innovate, somebody else will, right? I say all the time, if you're not in charge of your culture, somebody else is. And more often than not, it's going to be your competitor. And your competitor's culture that they will build for your business is failure. So creating that, I just cannot say it enough. Finding those tools that will allow you to build a culture of innovation and connection with continuous education in support of connection is one of the fundamental jobs of leadership inside an organization, no matter how big the organization.
Hey, really quickly, Cristina, could you touch on an organization that's strong enough to withstand wrong? I see someone makes a mistake, but we need the right kind of culture in an organization to be able to take and use that.
Are you looking for an example of what it might look
Not
like?
just an example, but the idea that it's okay that if we foster the right culture, we can withstand something wrong happening.
Sure. I think it's important to have guardrails. So if we're talking about creating a space for like innovation and testing new things, like testing out a new market or a new product, and innovating in a new space, it's important to talk about guardrails. How much risk as an organization do you feel comfortable with taking in this space? Because there is an investment of time to enable your employees to innovate in a new space. So how much time do we want to test in a certain space? So I think that's really important to set the guardrails for innovation for your company for what's right. And then within those guardrails, who's working on that and how much money are you willing to invest in that innovation pipeline? Now from a culture or like a everyday lived experience, a lot of what Chris is mentioning is psychological safety around for teams and your employees, because sometimes it's not as big as we're testing out a new customer segment or a new product, or as it could be, I want to create a space where my employees can share a new idea. It could be around operational efficiency or something very tactical that your team is doing. It could also be a place where you want to allow folks to challenge your idea as a leader, and or to be able to respectfully challenge ideas of other team members so that you all are really brainstorming and aligning on the best approach or the best way. But if everyone's just a yes and a yes yes culture, so whatever your leader is saying, you lose the power of diversity of thought and ideas for your team. So psychological safety serves not only like the lived experience of how I feel as a team member who feels respected and autonomous on my team, but also can enable the business by allowing for to reduce risk of missing key ideas or key thoughts that you wouldn't have thought of because someone was just too scared to say, we haven't thought of this problem with this idea that someone has. And so I think those are some ideas to consider there too. There's a team element and there's like organizational innovation, which can look different too. And I think guardrails are really important. How do we do this respectfully in a way that aligns with your business values and purpose?
I think that's key too. I'd like to say a little bit about, I wrote a blog on it because I encountered this so much, is ego can be the biggest killer of culture and purpose. So if that yes culture is usually built because of ego. And if we build organizations that are rooted in purpose and not rooted in ego, then great ideas and innovation can come to play because we're doing it for the sake of this purpose, for this bigger mission, not because I'm walking on eggshells, because somebody might feel insecure, threatened, afraid, whatever those feelings are. And I'll go back to the military and let Chris and Mike talk about that. But I would think that there's this, when you join the military, even your general again, or whatever, whoever your superior is, you're in the military. What is your purpose there? It's not for that guy, it's for something bigger, right? And I think that's what keeps the military keep moving forward and check but I'll let you two elaborate. I'm not the veteran, but a lot of people use the military in their leadership talks. I'm just saying, I don't know how many people, especially the new year, they're like, this company's having me read this book written by a former so-and-so from the military, all about leadership. So I think it's a good analogy.
And there are different schools of thought, but about military leadership. Some people love it, some people don't. And it also depends on what you did in the military. Will dictate a lot about how you feel about the style of leadership in the military. One thing that one of my biggest leadership takeaways from my few days in the military is the purpose question, right? So I was in the Marine Corps, so I can't talk to the Army purpose or Air Force purpose from a individual perspective, but the purpose of the Marine Corps, right, is warfare. It's fighting, and what that means to us is you then kind of separate into the war fighters, right? Your infantry, your pilots, your artillery folks, and then you kind of have everybody else, right? The logistics, the admin, and everybody's purpose in the Marine Corps, everybody's purpose is to enable that infantry guy to crawl down into a foxhole with an enemy and defeat him, right? That is the purpose. So everybody's purpose, everybody's focus is to get that young infantry lance corporal in that foxhole with the enemy, right? So, but that doesn't mean that as a logistics professional, you don't learn and find better ways to get him to that foxhole. It doesn't mean that you don't find better ways to deliver ordnance from aircraft ahead of time. So all that innovation and that change and change management needs to happen, but the purpose remains the same, to get that young Lance Corporal in the foxhole with the enemy, right? So, when, and from a business perspective, you can have that overarching purpose and still allow that innovation. The problem becomes when you get old heads like me who have been around for a couple of years, and they're like, this is how we have to do it, right? This is it. My boss told me this 10 years ago. It's never failed me. And I'm telling you now, and 10 years from now, you better be doing it this way because this is the way that works. You see it all the time in business also, regardless of new technology, new best practices, shifting in customer preferences and customer expectations of your product. We still have that legacy knowledge and that legacy processes that we just refuse to change because they're fundamental to our belief system, and we're just too tired to change, right? And we're too afraid of change because in some cases, getting it wrong can be bad, right? Companies like some of these Fortune 100 companies, they launch a clear soda that's sugar-free. It looks like water, right? And then it fails miserably. All right. The clear Coke, or clear Pepsi, if you remember that fiasco.
Crystal.
Yeah, Crystal, whatever it was. But it failed. I mean, they put probably $1 billion into that, and it just failed instantly. And most businesses can't survive that. So there's that fears from a leadership perspective. But I would argue that if we are building our culture, doing our education, and making sure people are connecting and building our resiliency along the way, resiliency to setbacks, resiliency to fear, then we'll win, right? At the end of the day, we're going to make mistakes. There's no doubt about it. But if we're doing those things, we're going to win. It may not look the way we wanted to in the beginning, but we'll get there.
So Chris, and I'm gonna let Mike talk because I know he has a really good point, but you brought up the clear soda. And if they hadn't made the mistake and lost the money they made, where would we be today without these soda companies owning Dasani's and all the other water beverages? They knew that the climate of the customer was changing. If you look at their why of the development of the soda, it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
They just didn't realize that people don't. It's maybe clear, man, but I know there's like 200 calories in this bottle, right? So. But it changed the trajectory.
Yep.
They didn't give up on the purpose or the why. They're just like, this is not the right method. But I think that's a really good story. But Mike?
Okay, so along with Chris's point, there is a lot of times, I was never in the Marine Corps, in the Army, but I could go and understand the way the Marine Corps operates because we operate on discipline. When companies launch a product like Clear, they lose money. When military loses something, people lose lives. So the level of commitment there is totally different. And so I think that sometimes when a person may say, I hate this job. I'm like, no, you don't, because if you walk out, no one is coming to get you to stop you. The commitment that the military has is that's not the case. You signed a contract that you were getting out on January 13th, and you showed up that day with your bags packed, and you're like, not today. Well, when can I leave? We will let you know when you can leave. There's a level of commitment that comes with that. So if you don't have the right culture and you have everyone working together for you, you as a leader are going to have a hard way to go. But if you foster the right atmosphere, what the workers will do for you, it plays a big difference. And Chris will know this. So on a team, say there's a team leader. The team leader's job is the entire team, making sure the team leader's good. The second in command, his job is to watch the team leader because he can't watch his back because he's watching the entire team. When you're setting up your management structure, there has to be someone who's in charge, maybe the visionary person. Someone has to take care of the tactical stuff. And a lot of times there's purpose driven in that. That's why, okay, and now Tiffany Greene, here's a shameless plug. We are having a leadership happy hour that is coming up. Tiffany Greene is going to be there talking about purpose and leadership and all the things right there, because it's very important when you hear that, whether you're growing leaders or your leadership there and you're trying to set the culture, you have to have leadership in place, the right kind of leadership, purpose driven. The more people are on board with you, the better and more efficiently it operates. If not, there's always going to be strife. Like Chris said, we did this. A guy told me that 10 years ago. And that's what I did. And I haven't done it for 10 years. And I'm telling you, a lot of things have changed in the 10 years since he told me that. We're scared to have younger people or people with different ideas come in if we don't have the right culture. Just like Cristina said, if we don't have that atmosphere to offer people to come with different thoughts and processes, we're going to be stuck as an organization.
And on top of that, I all of a sudden it's like I'm going back in time and I can hear all these former employees go, yeah, but you should also be able to listen to me when I'm telling you I've been doing this for 10 years for a certain reason. And I need to be able to tell you that because there may be validity in why we've been doing it this way for 10 years. So it goes both ways. I think we have this propensity innovation, right? We are always going to innovate, but it doesn't mean people who have all this experience, and we could bring in HR, they might say this is ageism. But if we've been doing certain things a certain way, it doesn't mean we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. It may be an opportunity to, again, I'm going to use the word, collaborate, bring the new idea and the old idea, and maybe there's a way to marry them.
Well, that goes directly to probably what I think is the second most important attribute of a great leader, which is curiosity. If just because I've been doing it 10 years doesn't mean I can't be curious about other ways of doing it. Notice I said that's the second most important quality of a great leader. We'll talk about the first one later, but for this one, it's curiosity.
So did curiosity kill the cat, Chris?
No, curiosity saved the cat.
That sounds like a really good blog title.
If I just can add, and curiosity, maybe data-backed approach. So if you have a process that works, great, and you have another idea, if you're going to test it, perhaps look at some metrics and see what's performing. So it's all about being curious, right? And maybe testing it with some data.
Nah.
Yeah, it might be a fun little competition there too. Some folks, some cultures like competition. Let's see how the old way does compared to the new way. And I've been in those situations, and sometimes they fare the same. So then what? But now I'd like to transition the conversation selfishly to empower people and why education, connection, and support. Why are we talking about that, Chris? I'm teeing you up. Why the heck are we talking about education, connection, and support?
Well, ultimately, you can understand all the concepts, right, of education, of connection, of support. You can understand the need for guardrails. You can understand the need for beta testing and setting limitations, budgetary and resource wise. You can understand all of those. But if you don't have the tools that are required to do those things, then it's nothing more than a concept. It's nothing more than a discussion or a what if, right? So with the Empower People tools, to be just direct about it, it's an affordable tool set that nearly anybody, any leader or any organization can pick up and start using today to make impact inside their organization, because it's intuitive, it allows for customization, it covers down on those core functions inside of organizational development and management. And I know Tiffany has gone to great lengths to make sure that all of that is included. It's not a premium, right? It's not a, you can have these basic tools, and then if you give us a whole bunch more money, you'll get the whole thing. No, it's a good out of the box tool to start building a culture of education, connection, and support. So I think that's where the real value Empower People, the Empower People product is. And the fact that it's really affordable doesn't hurt, right? You can support an entire organization for less than buying a cup of coffee a day, and that's important, especially for those businesses that are growing or maybe are trying to dig out of a hole, and maybe they don't have unlimited amount of resources that they can throw at a large development company. So it's a great tool out of the box. You don't have to try and make things up. What you need is there. The support network to help you grow your business is already there. You just have to be willing to use it and accept it. So I think that is the value of the Empower People product is its accessibility and usability, and it just makes sense, right? And you don't, and there's nothing in there that you're like, hey, why did they include this? No, everything in there makes sense. It's all purpose driven and affordable and accessible. So that's the key ingredients in helping people really grab hold of their business and make it their own and start controlling their business instead of letting others control it for them.
Affordability was key, right? Because if we're trying to say empower people, right? We're not saying empower some people. We're not saying empower certain people. We're saying empower people, which is applying all people. So we gotta keep it affordable so all the sizes of the organizations can actually access it and use it, right? So that's key. That's fundamental. So we try to remove that obstacle from for organizations to build a healthy, purpose-driven, positive impact culture, right? So right now there's over 190 courses in it by Cristina, and again, no excuse. We're removing all the excuses. Love it. Love removing obstacles. Maybe I should have been in the military. Not sure. Would I have been a failure to
adapt?
I don't know. Maybe. But anyway, so we do, just to give the audience a heads up what we got going on for the rest of the month. We have how to manage stress in your organization. That's coming up this Thursday at 1 o'clock. You're going to want to register. We also have a course on the 30th. And that course is about HR and what you need to know at all the different growth stages within your company. We also have the 2025 Empower Challenge, and this challenge is designed for advisors, coaches, and consultants who struggle with generating passive income. So this challenge is for them to learn how they can actually drive passive income, because most of these guys, what are they doing? They're exchanging time for money, and it's a big struggle. So that is on the 23rd, I believe, at 1 o'clock. So if you want to attend any of these things, please join Empower People for free. We have the free membership, so you can attend all this stuff for free. We'll always have the free membership. Just go to empowerpeople.org/join, and you can join for free. If you'd like to learn more about this Empower People learning management system that I teed Chris up really well to talk about, don't hesitate to reach out to me as well. And if you're interested in possibly licensing, so you as an advisor, coach, or consultant can use this program to actually drive that passive income, drive your purpose, drive your client's purpose, and extend your business beyond its own four walls and get that connection support that we were talking about. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. But I want to thank everybody for participating today. Our guests who was here, like Cristina, and those who are watching on Facebook Live. As always, Mike, it's always fun. I don't feel we got enough jokes in today, Mike, so we're going to have to work on that next time.
The jokes, that's the 2024 Mike. This is the buttoned up leadership Mike now. So for all jokes aside, folks, we talk to a lot of coaches, consultants, and advisors who are out there always trying to find extra revenue, always trying to make more money. This is the opportunity for it to happen right here. Whether it's trading, as Tiffany says, trading time for dollars, there is another way to do it. And this is the program. You're going to be hearing more about this. Why? Because I rock and roll with rock stars, Tiffany Greene, Chris Mayfield. What they've designed here is something for businesses to scale with leadership. It's in a box. It can help you and your team. You don't have to think of a bunch of things. A lot of them have been thought of already. So you're going to be hearing more about this with on the mic with Mike King Biz. I'd like to thank you guys, Chris, as well as Tiffany. Thank you for having me. Those guys, you guys out there doing big things. I'm just happy to tag along with you.
I'm just glad you're not sitting in the corner afraid to talk with us. You know what I'm saying? We're just
Well,
out
if
there.
I was, I'd be sitting there with Chris Mayfield and Dean Francis. Three guys who are, we go and do it because we have to. It's not because boy, I should loving running around the room talking to everyone who's there.
Find it out. You used to think I'm so different.
If there ever was a social butterfly.
I'm not really. I'm not the person in a big networking group that's fluttering around. I'm kind of intense.
But you can work it. Yes, yeah. We've had that conversation. Yeah.
We all got our strengths. We all got our opportunities for growth.
No, there's no better one than to when you let me know about being called Tiff.
That's right. Well, you know what? That's a really good lesson, right? Especially for people who are starting the new year and they got their New Year's resolutions. Don't expect people to read your mind. If you don't like something, you let people know, right? I mean, I wasn't mad at you, but you would have kept probably calling me Tiff if I didn't say, hey, Mike, I don't like being called Tiff. Just the other day, though, somebody called me Tiffy. I'll tell you.
But wait a minute. That's not as bad as Tiff. You told me when a person has a Tiff, there's a problem. If you're Tiffy, maybe you're just from the south of, you're Southern. That's like a Southern name. No,
it's not. No. That's just call me Tiffy if you want to get into it. I'll
Well, hey folks, take care. Thanks again, run.
Bye, Mike.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.